All right, Patrick, I don't know how closely you've been following Timberwolves narratives this season, but their biggest problem has been responding after a win.
Yes.
So they beat the Bucks, and then they get a little haughty, and then they lose a bunch of games. Then they beat the Lakers. They come back, they party all night, and so the challenge has been: can you follow a win without getting too full of yourselves? And last night, by golly, they accomplished it. They beat the vaunted San Antonio Spurs, back-to-back wins.
Popovich needs 21 wins to become the all-timer. He's going to have to come back next year.
Yeah.
That team stinks. But I'll tell you what, they came out of the chute last night. What was it, 21-3? I think something
It was a 20-point lead really early, yeah.
21-3. Let me say this in all seriousness. Chris Finch, for the most part, is getting them to do something that even Tibbs couldn't get them to do, which is play defense. They are playing some defense, which isn't easy when you have D'Angelo on your team. And he'll actually run all around and stand in front of somebody on occasion this year. It's not just shooting layups. But Vanderbilt's a defender. I like the lineup when he starts. I'd like him to use McDaniels more, but they're not completely helpless defensively. And guess what? We like to get on Cat. I like the way they were playing Cat. They're playing Cat now. He's away from the basket quite often to get some shots, but he still goes in there and gets 12 rebounds. I think he's playing good. He's playing good. There's the whining at the officials and his occasional martyrdom is, as far as, retweeting stuff saying free Cat and stuff like that, and then making up a story about being hacked. He's not a real mature guy, but he's playing good. And what else he's doing? He's playing. He hasn't missed a game, right? Mm-hmm. He hasn't missed a game. And the last season is hard to say, but 2018, 2019, he didn't play. He missed all kinds of big hunks of games. So he's playing. That's it. That's another big asset that he's on the court. He's playing good. So they're 6-10 now? 6-10?
They're 6-9, and I believe they were a game out of the 10 seed playing seed last night. So
unless
I don't want to get everyone too excited here, but
unless Cat breaks down and misses 25 games, they'll squeeze into the top 67% of the West. But
and I would also I would throw this into that as annoying as it is when they lose to the Magic. Like the Pelicans have 2 wins this season. One of them is against the Wolves, right? Those are bad losses. But this team wasn't going to just become a 58-win team. They're going to have frustrating losses. They're going to go through. I still think that over-under of 35.5. I still think I would take the over if everyone stays healthy. But Vegas generally knows what they're doing when they set those numbers.
But if they get to 36 or 7, they'll be in the playoff. They'll be in the top 10, right?
They'll be a 9-10 seed. Yeah. Which is, I think that's the goal, right?
We're number 10. We're number 10.
Well, you gotta start somewhere. And Edwards, you got to love his personality. And I was surprised to see the quote from Finch today saying he plays really well 1 out of 3 games. He says, now we got to get that up to 2 out of 3 games. And which is kind of setting a high standard for him because, I think he's been pretty good. But they got a little depth. They got 8-9 players, and they have not played up to their talent yet, but I think they can. I think they can. Last night was no contest.
One quick thing on Edwards. So, and I know I want to hear more about. I think you've already crowned Edwards potentially the Timberwolves' all-time media darling, which I want to get to. But even when he doesn't play well, it's usually because he shoots. Like last night. Well, he didn't shoot that poorly last night, but a couple games ago he went 2 of 11. He's had a 7 for 22. And even when he has those bad shooting games, when he's just settling for bad threes, he'll grab rebounds. He plays pretty good defense. He's at least active. these people that were comparing him to Andrew Wiggins. When Andrew Wiggins had a bad shooting night, he would grab 1 rebound and no assists on a regular basis. So at least Edwards is active and doing things and steals and blocks and defense when he's not shooting well.
Yeah, there are those nights when he has no conscience and just fires up a three when it comes, because he's not that good of a 3-point shooter. But he's and I love this whole thing. I heard somebody talking about this the other day. You can't be a winning team if Cat's your best player. Well, yes, you can. If your second best player is very close to being as good as Cat, right? If Edwards is your second best player reaching his full potential, then you can. Yes, you can. It's not, Cat is not one of the top 10 players in the league, but he's 15, 16, 14. You can win with Cat as your best player, as long as the supporting cast is there. He's that's good enough. There's this whole, you got to have your best player has to be such and such. Well, no, that's not true.
That's fair. Judd?
Let's talk about Ant as a quote, because Ant adopted the one thing that I like the most and should be a rule. When we refer to Chris Finch, it needs to be Finchy. It needs to be Finchy, and Ant knows that and doesn't. And the quote, we don't want Finchy to get out of character. It might be one of my favorites of all time. And he's 20?
That quote was fantastic. And he throws in, what I love about him is he throws in some of the worst grammar in the history of mankind in his quotes too. He has but it's
talks like he shoots, Pat.
It's fantastic. It was great. I laughed for 10 minutes when I saw the Finchy quote. Of course, what I'd really like to find out is if he's calling him Finchy because he watched the original Office in England, the Office show.
Probably not.
We had Finchy in there, and Finchy in that fantastic TV series, not the U.S. version, the British version, one of the greatest TV series of all time. And Finchy was David Brent's favorite character, Ricky Gervais's favorite character, even though he was the most inappropriate guy in the history of television. That was Finchy. That's the original Finchy right there. So
love it.
That's a great quote, though. So meanwhile, our guy in St. Paul, Dino, pushes all the right buttons. All you have to do is wake Kaprizov up, Patrick Royce.
Shuffle the line.
All
That's
you
have to do.
Send a little message, and the next thing you know, you get a goal and 3 assists from Kirill.
Well, I happened to be changing channels the other afternoon, and I got to admit this. I ran into Coley at about 2:20, and he was talking in-depth hockey with Rosen. And all he would talk about was how fat Kaprizov is, to the point I thought we were going to have to get him a gastric bypass he was talking about. So it was nice to see him score a goal. Apparently that's is that the litany now of the wild critics that Kaprizov's too fat?
I think he looked bigger, and so some people who probably don't care think he's fat. He's not fat. He's bigger, but I don't think he's fat. But
and he's this idea that he can, goals are random anyway. What the hell?
Right.
If you get your chances, you get goals. So,
but how nice is it, Patrick, that on the night that Suits returns in all his glory and plays more minutes than anybody else on either team, that a Wild Stars basically sent a message and responds to it as opposed to bristles and gets mad and runs to the guy that owns the team to complain to him?
7-2, wasn't it?
7-2.
Yeah.
And Ryan Suter played the most minutes of anybody.
A minus what?
Minus 2.
Minus 2.
2.
Okay.
Minus 2.
I see he did talk apparently at the skate around or something, and
morning skate. Yeah.
He didn't want to leave here. He didn't want to.
Yeah. Shocking.
Well, it's I'm sure he didn't, because he had to, uproot the whole thing. But well, they obviously didn't miss him last night. That's for sure. How's Dallas? Any good?
They have a lot of big names and talent, and you're going to be shocked by this. A team that Ryan is on is underachieving and appears to be sort of lackadaisical.
I don't know about that because I never thought the Wild underachieved. They weren't that good. They didn't have any goal scorers until they got the Russian. So I didn't think they underachieved.
Oh, you didn't? No.
Well,
I did.
Coyle, Niederreiter, Granlund, they weren't that good. They weren't that good as they proved.
Yes.
So, anyway.
But
meanwhile, how do you like a league, a hockey league? The soul of hockey. Canada is up there, right? Canada, they got Edmonton's got the guy, so they're okay. The two best franchises, or the two best teams in the NFL are located NHL are located in Florida, out in the suburb, Miami, where nobody knows they exist, and in Carolina, in Raleigh, North Carolina. Those are the two best teams. And the other one, have you noticed Buffalo's attendance? 6,000-7,000 a game. What is going on?
That's pretty tough. When those fans become apathetic, I think that.
Well, I think they're mad at the owner because he's trying to make them buy him a new billion-dollar football stadium, but B, he also wants a $200 million renovation of the hockey arena too, or something. And he wants the state of New York and the taxpayers to pay the whole freight, I think.
They played Toronto last week, and ordinarily that game draws really well, and it was empty.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Attendance is a big problem in sports.
They're 4,000 less than everybody in the league. I looked it up yesterday, including Arizona, which is being evicted.
All right, Pat. Vikings-Packers this Sunday. What are your thoughts?
Vikes by 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Vikes by 10. It'll be for one of the few times they're going to play a good second half, and like they did last Sunday. And the Packers look very bland offensively, in my opinion. And their defense has absolutely played their arses off the last 2 weeks. And they got beat down in Arizona because the offense couldn't do anything. And it was only, they played terrific last week, and it was only 3-0 late in the third period. So I don't think they have enough offense to come in here. I don't think right now they have enough offense to come in here and win, and especially without Aaron Jones, because this Dillon guy is a nice second back, big, strong guy, but you don't want to have him play the whole game, which I don't know if they have a backup running back or not. I haven't seen him yet. So I like the Vikings. I like the Vikings to win that game, but they will. Let me just say this. They still have a couple of disappointments in their back pocket for us. Don't worry about that.
Oh.
There'll be a couple clunkers where you say they can't lose this game, and they do. But
there's going to be a Bears game against like an interim head coach, and Andy Dalton is starting again. That's definitely on the horizon.
There'll be one out
there's the Lions searching for their first win coming up still at some point. Yeah.
But I do like I like them. By the way, they're apparently the only team in town that has got their whole fan base back, right? The Vikings. I mean, aren't they? I guess
drawing.
I guess tickets have been easy to get. They, now maybe not this Sunday with the Green Bay people, but the Wild. Not last night was okay, right? But the first home game this week against San Jose,
I don't know. I thought Target Center looked pretty packed last night in the third quarter against the Spurs.
How empty was it last night? It was empty on.
They showed a couple wide shots and they would take back from a production standpoint, but like when the Wolves would go on a run, Cat would hit a three and they would like zoom out or something.
Don't zoom out.
To show.
So what? Empty seats?
8 people in the crowd.
Look at all the empty seats.
Well, I mean I think people wanted to be excited to start the season, and then they lose 6 games in a row or whatever.
I gotta say, let me say something about the Buxton deal.
Please do.
Mike Rand wrote. I heard him wrote this yesterday or whenever, and I've heard it that the Twins, if they don't sign Buxton, are going to lose credibility with the fans. This guy, okay, that's, I would like to see them sign him and take a shot. But the credibility has been lost by Buxton, not the Twins. The
Oh.
credibility is lost by a guy who's played 40% of the games in the last 4 years. It's not the team, it's the player. And by the way, when he came back in September, finally, he was great in April. There's no doubt about it. When he came back in September, he was not a world beater. He was good, you'd rather have him than not. But the credibility lands with him. And by the way, here's the other thing. If they sign him, if they give him $110 million or whatever it's going to take, and he starts getting hurt again, these same people who are now saying, they got to keep him there. They got to show, they're going to lose all respect to the fans if they don't. Those same people are going to be saying, how could those idiots sign this guy and give him all that money instead of spend it on pitching when he doesn't play? If he gets hurt again, they're going to be getting ripped by the same people who now say they need to sign him for the credibility of the franchise.
And while I agree that his credibility and durability are both shot, my question back to the Twins would be, well, what else are you on the hook? Like, they're going to trade Josh Donaldson. They'll dump his salary this offseason. They didn't sign Barrios. They're not on the hook for 6 big contracts. So to me, this is a risk. I mean, this apples to oranges here. But Paul Molitor was hurt until he was 30.
And then he DH'd.
Sure, but Buxton could play right field in 3 years and still be
I don't care.
Insanely valuable.
Buxton is only valuable if he plays center field.
I'm gambling on 120 games. That's what I'm gambling on.
You cannot mention him in the same breath with Molitor as a hitter, of course. And Molitor got healthy when he stopped playing in the field. And if Buxton doesn't play in the field, he's worthless. So that's, what makes him different. What makes him a difference maker is playing in the field.
So would you would explore trading him?
No, I'm just saying if they sign him, fine. But the notion that they have to sign him, I don't buy that. He should not be rewarded fantastically for having spent.
So do you not care then if they trade him in, I don't know, before December 1
or not playing? So
we lost Pat there for a second.
Okay.
Judd, go ahead. Ask it again.
So Pat, do you not care if they trade him then before, say, the work stoppage?
They won't trade him. They won't
on December
trade
1st.
him.
But I mean, do you care if they do, or at this point would you just
no,
say,
because
I'm
this
out?
team is not. This is not a team that's on the cusp of anything. It's a team that's rebuilding. No matter what they're telling you, they have no pitching staff. Mm-hmm. You cannot win because you have Byron Buxton in center field and you have no starting pitchers and you have a questionable bullpen.
Now, if they have determined, by the way, inexplicably somehow, like 2 years after what they did in 2019, and they were good in 2020, if they have somehow determined, well, this just has to be a full rebuild because we don't have any pitching, and then it'll take another 3+ years, well, then trade him. Trade him. If you're going to sign him, then you should also follow up by having a plan to get 2 really good starting pitchers this winter. But if you can't do both, then all right, whatever. Then just be miserable for 3 years. And
I've always said about him, when he's playing good, they're 20% better everywhere. Pitching, mm-hmm. Fielding, obviously way better fielding, and offensively because he's the only athlete they got. Mm-hmm. But the idea that somehow he has earned this big contract is crap. He is. What I try to do is I'm going to wait till next trade. I'm going to let him play in the summer. If he plays good, you probably won't be able to sign him. But I think you'll get less for him right now than you will if you usually. I admit that usually position players don't bring a big reward in the middle of the season. But if he's playing good and you can't sign him, then you can probably get more than you can get now. I don't think with the uncertainty of the contract and December 1st and the whole deal, I don't think it's feasible to trade him now. I think you got to wait till there's a season being played.
Yeah, he probably wants to. Him and his agent would probably like to play a full season too.
Yeah, unless he stubs his toe and misses 2 months, and then if he fouls the ball off his pinky, fouls the ball off his small toe, and can't play for 35 days. He lost me this year when he missed 37 games after running to first base, and then he came back and he broke a little pinky finger and he missed another 30 games. The old boys would have rubbed a little dirt on it, taped it up, and hit. So
yeah, that's fair.
He is not showing me any inclination to play under circumstances when he's not 90%. And he hasn't shown me it. He hasn't shown me that he cares that much to be in a lineup. So,
yeah, those are all fair points. All right. Pat's got the Vikings by 10. Pat's got Buxton on the way out, and Pat's got Birds avoiding U.S. Bank Stadium.
We're spraying grape juice at the Birds to try to quit them, but now we're not going to do it because the Audubon Society is very upset. So if you have any dead birds in your yard, go down there and lay them in front of the down there in front of the dome, just to irritate people as you're walking in. I took a picture of a dead bird on the street in Minneapolis about 3 years ago and kept running it, kept sending it out on Twitter. Oh, another one! I found it.
My God!
I found it in front of the Ziggy Dome.
Do they have the X's on their eyes like you see, or is it a real thing?
Yeah.
All right, Pat. We'll talk to you next week. Rapping with Royce, Mackey and Judd, Score North YouTube channel.